Oh, we're starting. Right, okay. Right, ready. 3, 2, 1. Sometimes. Hello all and welcome back to the podcast corner. If you're a first time listener, well, hopefully you weren't put off by the intro. My name is Naoki and this show is, well, not as organised as I would like it to be. But here we tend to talk about things that are outside of my usual topics, that is from retro computers, consoles, or even some arcade game topics. Although, if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, you might be curious to check out my YouTube channel, Naoki's Retro Corner, which is available for you to view. Just search for @NaokiSRC, and you can also find me on, X, if that's what they must call Twitter now, with the same handle. But with the plugin and the groans out of the way, let's get on track with going off the rails. And what I mean by that is, well, I'm very disorganised. And if this weren't all a hobby, it would be a very terrible business strategy. And that's probably most noticeable in the infrequency of this podcast. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, you might look at the description and it says semi-weekly or something along that description. Because I wanted it to be bi-weekly, but I didn't want to commit to being, bi-weekly. I figured, I know I'm going to mess up, so if I set myself up for it being a semi-weekly podcast, therefore I can't feel guilty about not putting a podcast out on time. And yet here I am, feeling guilty about not putting a podcast out in a rather long time. This is one of those things of, it bothers me not because I set myself a goal that I must do it weekly. It's bothering me more because I know there's nothing technically stopping me from doing it more regularly, but I just don't. And that kind of really annoys me. And I think but part of the issue with that is it's down to the fact that the way I record stuff is very much in the moment. So previously I've said about not necessarily that I am diagnosed with ADHD, but I think I have something along those lines. It's got, I do match a lot of the criteria. And I think part of that is I have to be hyped and I want to be involved with something before I actually want to do it. And I haven't been feeling as hyped as I wanted to be for doing the next video or doing the next podcast. And that's been a problem for me because I've not been hyped, I therefore don't want to record, and because I don't want to record, I don't think of the topics, and because I don't, it goes on and on and on, and yet here I am, talking about being disorganised, and how, I have no schedule, I have no set way of doing things, it's all off the cuff. Well, quite honestly, I figured, well, if you're being that disorganised about this whole thing, you might as well talk about why you're being disorganised and, probably what you should be doing, but you won't do really. And so part of the problem stems from the fact that I want to, when I do my podcasts, generally what I'll do is I'll think of a simple, like 1 or 2 word topic, in this case disorganized, and the last 2 ones it was like talking into the void and dreaming big. But when I do think of those topics, I have to think to myself, okay, what can I put in there? What category, what similar topics or stories can I put in there so I can fill out a whole podcast episode. And well, when you're disorganized, that kind of comes into you tend to get a lot of topics that don't fit anywhere else. Like, usually I'd be trying to talk about how stuff is impacting, like how YouTube goes and how your personal you've got the personal side of it, how it's difficult to record into a microphone when you're on your own. You're trying to speak to the imaginary third person. There's a lot of other things that I'd want to talk about, and we'll get onto them. I do have a list, which is probably the most organised this show ever gets. All my shows, well, all 3 of them so far have had lists. And again, that's probably the most organised I've been about it. But yeah, let's just talk about how I record these episodes, because it probably ties into YouTube, and maybe you too experience some of these. I'm not going to say symptoms, but maybe you do your own things. So for me, a video or a podcast or anything creative always starts usually in downtime. When I'm chilling in bed, I'm watching something on YouTube, I'm going to or from work, or, maybe it's on a lunch break, or I'm just bored at work. It's something where I am not doing anything, and then my mind kind of wanders. And then, maybe I'll come up with the idea of my next video, or maybe I'm talking to someone in the meanwhile, like on Discord or something else, and they'll casually mention something, and I think to myself, that's a really good idea, I like that. And then I'll think to myself, yeah, I could do a video on it. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And, so by the time, hopefully, that this podcast episode comes out, I will have hopefully posted a new episode on the PS2 saga, which started as me doing a video on the HDD installation, and then finished up with me basically complaining and saying it's not really that convenient because I'm on macOS, and the way that PlayStation 2 stuff was set up, it was kind of annoying and awkward. But what ended up happening was literally less than a month after that video went out, I got a comment saying you can now use exFAT on the PS2, and that was a major whoa, really? You can use exFAT? And I went to the Discord chat, and I was speaking to a user by the name of Grim Doomer, who, by the way, I just want to thank before all of his efforts in the exFAT stuff, because his knowledge is vastly greater than mine. He's very, very, very intelligent with what he does, and the whole exFAT support for the PS2 was actually just a byproduct of what he was trying to do, which is actually related to the Namco System 256, which is a arcade board based on the PlayStation. But I was casually just talking to him, and I was like, "Oh yeah, of course that you were making this. Why didn't I think of this?" Because I had been speaking to him, even I think during the editing of my PS2 video, and it never occurred to me. He's making exFAT drivers for the Namco PS2, the Namco 256, and that was basically being backported to the PlayStation and OPL. And so, just a casual comment from YouTube, I went and spoke to Grim Doom. I was like, yeah, that's a brilliant YouTube episode right there, because it's a great follow-up. And I kind of feel silly about not realizing it at the time, but, he makes a nice follow-up video, and I ended up putting in a fan, replacement silent fan for the PS2. So, nicely buttons up the PS2, and I get to correct a mistake and basically say to the world, yeah, I was wrong. You can do this now, and in fact, you know what? It's actually pretty cool. But so see, I've already gone off the rails. I'm supposed to be following this list, and I've already gone way past that. Anyway, cycling back to recording, I'll get the initial idea, and then I will usually think about it and dwell on it. Like, as I said, if it happens at work, I'll think on it on the way home, and like what I can do, how I can talk, what points to bring up. Maybe I'll do a script, but I tend to just do the thing first, because I can't make up a story before I know the story. I have to know the story, and then I can curate it, and then I can write it down in a script. So the PlayStation video, for example, that I basically was like, look, I'm not going to get on with this. I'm not going to do a video on this unless I just do it. So I ended up asking Derek or Delboy from the RMC Discord server about printing me off some 3D parts, which he kindly did for me. And I got myself an SSD, of which I had loads of laying around. I ordered myself a Gelid 6 fan, and I got them already, and I just started filming. I was like, I'm not going to worry about what I say. I'm not going to worry about how I do things. I'm just going to get on and do it as if it was a normal project, and then we're going to go from there. And so I did that. And then now I have imported all the files, and I'm building the script. And there's no real thought to the script. It's basically recounting how I did things. If I happen to think of something funny in the meanwhile, or a joke during that brainstorming session, I guess, then I will see about importing that into the video at some point. But generally, it's kind of, like I said, it just, what happens goes into the video, and I talk about it. And it's kind of the same with the podcast. When I do a podcast, I'll think of the topic name. I'll think of, okay, what can I put into my show notes? And then I'll just go with it, and what happens, happens. And then I'll just open Audacity. I'll do it all in one session, and that's it. And maybe it's not the best way, because I know that the podcaster and YouTuber Reese and, well, Control-Alt-Reese and Reese Rambles, I think the way he does it, and I'm sure he's going to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that he records his different parts of the day, and he records it, he basically records all of his segments at different points, or generally, if he can get multiple done in one take, then that's good, but sometimes they might break it up between stories. And I really respect that, because when I start with something, I want to finish it. I don't want to be thinking, oh, I need to go back and finish that. Sometimes, like, if I've got a half a script and I've got that all set up, I'll record that entire bit of the script, and then I'll get to the end of it, and then what usually puts me off and why I got into the habit of doing it all in one take was the fact that, unlike Reese, I don't have a setup that is consistent. I think he's got quite a small room. It's got sound insulation on it, and so that when he records it, it's basically the same sound and tone and all of that kind of stuff, and you don't really notice it. To me, when I listen to his podcasts, it's very, very rare that I notice any breaks or pauses or will go, he stopped doing that. He stopped recording here and he put a break in. And again, maybe that's just because he's got a really natural way of talking. Maybe it's just because he's got that kind of way of presenting that allows him to do that. I think Robert Dunn of Aging Wheels is the same. He can just record random bits and then go to a completely different location, record another random bit, go to another location, and so on and so on. And when he's presenting, you don't tell. It looks like he's just, he may as well have been in one space. So I'm kind of really jealous that people can do that. But yeah, so I record it all in one session. That means I have to be in the mood to record it all in one session. And yeah, it just ends up being a pain, because when I am in the mood to record a session, sometimes other factors prevent me from doing that. And because I still have this feeling I need to record it all in one go, I need to have the amount of time to do it. So I can't just record 10 minutes on a quick subject and then go do something else, make dinner or go out. No, I have to sit down for about an hour, record the entire episode, and then I can worry about editing it later. That's one of those things that I know could be improved. I know it's something there. And the other problem about that is, I try to keep my recordings, and I try to do video stuff on a Monday and a Tuesday, but that just doesn't end up happening. Again, because of the whole mood and wanting to do things, sometimes I get Monday and I come home, I was like, I just want to come home, I just want to eat, and I just want to watch YouTube. I don't want to do anything else. And because even if I try to force myself to do something else, I'm gonna hate it, and I don't want to do it. In the output, you will definitely know that I don't want to do it, especially if I need to record any audio, because you will definitely hear in my tone, I'm not happy, I don't want to do this. So I try to hype myself up for Mondays and Tuesdays, but again, that just doesn't always happen. So then I get into a problem of I don't have any schedule, I don't have any deadlines, and I tend to ignore the fact that sometimes I'm just not in the, the mindset to do things. So what do you do in that instance? And quite honestly, well, recording stuff and in general, just knowing, okay, I need to do this on this point. As simple as maybe just make a calendar appointment for myself. I mean, I've had to start doing that at my workplace, because even though I know I need to call such and such a person later, I'll always forget, because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And so beforehand, I got really terrible. At some points, I'd just go through an entire day, basically do nothing, and then go, oh, I was supposed to do that, and then I didn't. And since I've been putting in calendar appointments, even for the most trivial of things, like someone said, oh, can we have a look or have a quick 5-minute chat at 2 o'clock? I will put that 5-minute chat or 10-minute chat at 2 o'clock so that I actually have a reminder like 10 minutes before. So it goes, oh yeah, I need to do that. I need to remember about this. And then when we do chat, I can quickly recall any memories or anything I need to on that particular topic, whatever it may be. And so maybe I need to start doing that more in my creative life, because honestly, I'm missing deadlines. I haven't feel like I've achieved a lot in the last few weeks, and I know I could do better. Part of that's down to not having parts, it's down to waiting on other people, other stuff, but part of it's just I'm very unorganized and I just don't structure or plan anything. So yeah, maybe I need to look into doing that. But I think the other problem with this is the fact that sometimes I get the idea of, oh, this would make a great video, or it would be really fun to make this a video, but it's on something I can't talk about. And that's not because it's under any NDA or anything like that. That is quite simply because it doesn't fit the channel topic. Now, Naoki's Retro Corner is primarily a retro console and computing / arcade channel. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't try to be a programming channel. It doesn't try to be a modern reviews channel, even though I did review a Lassie 4TB hard drive ages ago. Partly because they just don't do well. Because I tried with the iLife 09 video, that's still one of my worst performing videos. And partly because, well, the channel's not really about that. It's about older stuff. So when I come along and start working on other projects, like I'll happily talk about the fact I've got in the works, very brief context. There's the DDR or Dancing Stage or Dance Dance Revolution arcade cabinet. As you know, I'm quite a big fan of all of that. Inside of that cabinet, there is 2 boards, and they're called the Stage I/O boards. And basically what they are giant multiplexers that take 16 inputs for the 16 sensors in the dancing stage, and then convert that into up, down, left, right for the game. Simple board, or sounds like it should be simple, but it also has a diagnostics routine. Anyway, long story short, these boards do fail. The CPLD that they use on them fails. And when they fail, obviously that causes an issue with the game. It will no longer boot because it doesn't see this board. So I set to work on making a repro board because no one's really cloned the CPLD. And I've got some experience in doing similar kind of, I'm not going to say it's complicated, what the CPLD does, but it's still not been figured out. No one quite understands how it works. And we know how to make DDR boot, and we know how to make the game happy. But no one really understands the inner mechanisms of its mind. So that was my project, and I got that to 90%. I say 90%. I think in the last couple of days, I've basically realized almost all of my code, at least the critical, important diagnostic mode, doesn't actually work in the way that the game is expecting. So I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to recode that. But that's a really annoying thing that I really feel it could be a video, but it's just not going to do well. I know that off the top of my head because it's not something that people are interested, or at least most of my viewers would probably not be interested in seeing the progress of, but of the final product, that could be a video idea. But I'm not done with it yet, so I can't make a video on it. And it's a similar kind of thing. I've got like JVS I/O boards and stuff like that, and I'm still debating whether or not there's any kind of market for that kind of video. And so yeah, I start working on loads of personal projects that take away time, and that eats into my personal time, and therefore means I can't work on doing creative stuff like doing videos or doing podcast episodes or something like that. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. I mean, I want to do what I want to do. But it is sometimes annoying. I can't just shoehorn a video in that's off topic because I want the videos to do well. I don't want to just put out content just for the sake of content. And that's one thing that's also kind of annoyed me. It's the fact that if you listen to a lot of people and you listen to what they recommend, or at least some people what they recommend when you're starting out, they say, just put out as many videos as you can and then worry about quality when you've got an audience. Well, the problem is with me, as you might know, that I don't like making something that's lesser. I want it to be as good as I can get it before I put it out there. Otherwise, it's like, why did you even bother? Because if I set the standard low for myself, why should I go above that kind of, why should I put more time and effort in when I know I can get away with less? So it's partly because it's partly because of principle. So yeah, I can't always make a episode, whether it be podcast or video, on what I'm currently working on, because sometimes it just doesn't fit into the mainstream, category. It's like I can make a load of videos on my car, for example, because like there's a load of technical things that I want to do. Like I wanted to do a replacement radio series, like where I basically build an entire replacement in-car entertainment system, but that's not going to happen on the main channel because it's way out of scope. I could do woodworking stuff, but I don't have nearly enough tools to do that. And even if I did, second channels don't tend to go that well. And if you don't care about it, that's fine, but I kind of do. And, my woodworking consisted of, I wanted to get the DDR cab, my little mini quarter scale DDR cab, built. And I've done that now, or at least I've got the majority of the cabinet built. So yeah, the inspiration hasn't hit me to do anything more with that. So yeah, I think those are the main things that have prevented me from doing things more regularly than I would like to. Mostly part of, sit myself down to actually do work and feeling in the mood for it, and then just being inspired to do something in the first place. And then, of course, you've got the external factors like, you've got your personal life, you've got to work, you've got to come home, you've got to eat, you've got to shower, you've got to do chores around the house, you might have to sort out other things, bills, taxes, I don't know. So it all comes to a head, and you end up, I end up just not doing things as quickly as I'd like to. But again, I'm not out to make tons of content over quality. I'd rather, it take a while and you get the quality of it. I want to put as much effort into what I do make, so it's of a good standard quality of what I can achieve, rather than just shoveling it out and just not really putting that much effort into it. I'm actually kind of bored of this. Let's talk about something fun. So, if you have been following me on Twitter, or especially on Discord in various places, you'll know that I have been basically drawing. And that's weird for me to say because I'm not an artist. I'm not a good drawer either. I have dabbled in these sketches, but I have been drawing lately, and these are like little silly comics. And the tools that I'm using are not exactly stellar. I mean, they're an old iPad 6th generation, with a off-brand Apple Pencil, and I'm using Apple Freeform. Yeah, I mean, the iPad is fine. Loads of people are using iPads to draw digital art on, but they're probably using something like Procreate. And I'm using Apple Freeform, which is really kind of a SketchUp and a drafting kind of thing. You use it if you want to make a example of what you want your website page to be, or what you want your company letters to look like. You can also do other things like jotting down notes, but yeah, I'm drawing comics in it. It's not good for drawing comics in. In fact, it's awful. It crashes all the time, and that's partly because it's not designed to do as much drawing and as much laying as I have done, and it's not designed to run. It's not designed to do that and also run with limited RAM on an iPad. And like I said, it constantly crashes. But I'm having a lot of fun doing it lately. And, I'm making an excuse. Oh, I want to learn a bit of drawing. Oh, I want to just, play around with seeing, putting comics out or something like that. No, the answer is I'm just enjoying it because... And the answer is I do it because I get a funny idea in my head. I can draw it out when I'm in my, having a bit of downtime. And at the end of it, I get a nice image. So, yeah, that's been quite fun. And, it's kind of nice to do something and not have to worry about, oh, you're not doing this for a video, or you're not doing this for, you need to be recording. No, it's just nice to just sit down and do something and get work done. And... yeah, and like I said, it's nice because I've actually started to get my style of drawing a bit more. And my style is basically I have copied my partner's style, or at least one of the cartoony styles, and I've called it my own. And yeah, I think it's nice. I think it's nice to do something once in a while where you don't have to worry about it, and at the end of it, you get quite a bit of nice satisfaction from doing it. Kind of like my music. Now, I do dabble in making songs. I don't post them out onto YouTube as individual songs or anything like that. I just do them as and when, and sometimes I hit, sometimes I miss, but of the ones that have hit, I really do like them. And it's not like I don't show them and I keep them to myself. I have used some in my episodes, and I think in the the second episode of my mini DDR Cab series, there's at least two. I think it was at least two songs in there that were mine, maybe three. And although it's kind of confusing because if you look at the music list in that, it just says Naoki, 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 Naoki. Because I use the songs from DDR, and the songs from DDR are usually made by Naoki Maeda. But obviously, I based my username off Naoki Maeda, and yeah, so it was a bit confusing, but I tried to highlight the differences by capitalizing his work and then, just doing mine as a regular name. But yeah, it's one of those things. I've enjoyed doing it, and I'm kind of surprised I haven't done anything recent with it. Because again, I've not felt particularly inspired. Because every time I open up GarageBand, which is what I use to edit my music in, what I do is I go into the loops, drag a few loops on, and I'll see how it sounds, and then I'll edit it from there. Which is in contrast to what I used to do, which is basically plagiarize someone else's song, change it a little bit, and then call it my own. I think the first time I ended up making my own original piece was, I called it Ice, or Ice, no, it was Ice S.mid. Yes, it was a MIDI file. But it was actually one of the first songs I had made without any inspiration to anything else. Or rather, when I say inspiration, I wasn't plagiarizing someone. And I had the inspiration of kind of, as the name implies, it's based around it being in like an icy cavern, and kind of with a bit of a Legend of Zelda twist. I'll give you a listen. Here's let's say brief excerpt of of that MIDI file. And yeah, I'm putting it into this podcast because although I'm not particularly proud of it in the sense of I can hear that there would need to be changes, it's one of those things where I've never really focused on making it for other people. I never made it for other people. I made it for myself. And I think that's kind of what I need to remember about when I'm doing projects. I'm not doing them necessarily just because, I don't enjoy doing them because I make videos out of them that I can put on YouTube. I do them because I enjoy them. I enjoy doing the projects, and I film them so that other people can, follow along, and they might, it might inspire them or do something else. Like someone recently messaged me on the PS2 video and said, I didn't even realize you could do this. That's fantastic. You don't understand how much you've inspired me to do this. And I'm like, well, fair enough. I thought it was common knowledge, but I'm happy to hear that. You're welcome. But yeah, just cycling back, and I know that, like I said, I know this is off the rails kind of stuff, but I'm just talking off the rails today. And yeah, so that song, you've probably heard it. If you've watched my videos, you've probably heard it, because in the end, what it transformed into was So how did I make the jump from that, almost lullaby-like melody into Eurobeat? I mean, I can tell you the answer, and that's because of one of my friends. One of my other songs that was in the video, and again, I'll have a very brief excerpt of this. Yeah, I sent him a clip of that work in progress, and he basically remixed it into a Eurobeat, which I will just. I mean, I'm having fun doing this. Let's go. Let's put this one on as well. So yeah, he did a Eurobeat version of that song, which I really liked, and I tried to do it myself and I couldn't. But then I'm like, I put in the MIDI file into GarageBand and I basically remixed that into a Eurobeat, and I liked it so much that that ended up being one of the two songs that inspired me into making, into basically hyping me up for doing the DDR cabinet series. And that's one of the things I was using, to try to keep myself engaged and, looking forward to making videos, is the fact that I was listening to this song and I'm like, just imagine what it's going to be like when you actually, get to put that song into the video. And at least for the one that you heard before, the one that my friend remixed, I did put that into the video, and then someone commented, what version of Bad Apple was that? Because again, that's one of those songs where I basically plagiarized it and modified it enough to kind of claim it was my own, but obviously it's still based on Bad Apple. But yeah, that kind of helps me to, to remind myself, you're not just doing it for YouTube's sake or whatever, you're doing it to have fun. I have no real good way of transitioning from this random offshoot music talk to social platforms, but yeah, so Twitter is now known as X, WTF, like, what? So, this is a question, what do you do with that? Because I don't particularly do social media in the sense of I tend to stick to one or two platforms and that's it. I have got a presence on other places like Facebook pages. I do have an Instagram account, but they have never been updated except for when I did a channel rebrand about some months ago now. Maybe it's even a year ago. But I don't post there. I was posting primarily on Discord and then partially on Twitter. And yeah, now Twitter's X, and X is terrible and it's getting worse by the day. So I mean, I signed up for Mastodon, but the problem with Mastodon, again, it falls into the category of I don't go there that frequently, and even though I should cross post, I forget. And even then, it's kind of quiet. Unless you're in it, you only get showed content because of the way Mastodon is made. You only get content that is shown to you that is similar in your topic or from the same people in your server. Well, you kind of don't get inspired because randomly I'll get someone on Twitter who will be posting about DDR stuff or whatever. Like usually I wouldn't see because Mastodon, it just doesn't show you that. So yeah, I don't want to entirely move to Mastodon, but at the same time, everything else is basically Facebook. You've either got Facebook pages, you've got Facebook itself, and then you've got Instagram and now Threads. And I know that a load of my YouTuber friends have signed up to Threads, but I don't like Facebook enough. I don't want to bother. So what am I going to do? Because maybe I should just stay on Discord. Discord, you're in a small community. You're in small communities, but at least they're basically pre-curated and there's no intrusive ads onto them. But yeah, that's sad. But yeah, that's probably going to do it for this episode. It might have been a bit shorter, and I've definitely lost focus, certainly by the end of it. But, that's technically still on topic. To be off topic. In any case, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and if you did, please share this to other people who might be interested, because it helps to grow a small show into a big one, and I would like to see this take off. And I'll make sure to put in a link to Reach Rambles and Aging Wheels into the description so that you can check them out. But for now, I'll see you next time, in hopefully a timely manner and probably a bit more on topic.